Why do you feel lonely even when your life is so full? Why is it that you can talk to people all day, then still end the night feeling weirdly empty? Have you ever had one of those days where your contacts are full? Your group chats are active, your weekend isn't totally empty, and yet it still feels like there's no one who's really your person. Maybe this scene feels familiar. You get home after work. You kick off your shoes, drop your bag, turn on the light. Almost without thinking, you reach for your phone. You look at what people posted. You smile for a second. You think about replying to someone, then just keep scrolling. And somehow, even though the day wasn't exactly bad, it still feels like no one really touched your heart. Like nobody truly reached you. You know that feeling, right? Nothing dramatic happened. Nothing is technically wrong. But something in you feels a little cold. A little distant, like you're slightly disconnected from the world around you. So let me say this first, because it matters. Just because you feel that way doesn't mean something is wrong with you. It doesn't mean you're weird. It doesn't mean you're bad at relationships. It doesn't mean you're hard to love. A lot of the time, it means you're living in a stage of life, especially your 20s and 30s, that quietly makes real connection harder than most people realize. In the U.S., nearly half of adults report feeling lonely, and the numbers are especially high among younger adults. People are also spending more time alone than they used to, and less time seeing friends in person. So if you've been thinking, why am I like this? Or, am I the only one feeling this way? The answer is no. You're not too sensitive, you're not imagining it, and you're definitely not the only one carrying this feeling around in the background. And here's the strange part. We have more ways to connect than ever, but a lot of us feel less connected. We can reach anyone instantly, but we don't always feel close to anyone. We know more about each other's lives, but sometimes less about each other's actual emotional reality. We see updates. We don't always feel intimacy. And that's because loneliness isn't exactly the same thing as being alone. Being alone is just a situation. Loneliness is a feeling. It's the gap between the kind of connection you need and the kind of connection you actually feel. That's why you can feel lonely in a relationship, lonely in a friend group, lonely living with family, lonely at a party, and on the flip side, you can be alone and feel completely fine. Peaceful, even. Because the real issue isn't how many people are around you. It's whether you feel genuinely connected to them. And this is exactly why loneliness can hit especially hard in your 20s and 30s. Because this is the stage of life where everything keeps shifting. You graduate, you move, you start your first real job, you quit, you start over. Some friends get married, some have kids, some disappear into work, some go through breakups, some are barely keeping their own life together. So they don't have much left for relationships. Everybody's trying their best, but weirdly enough, that very process of trying to build a life can also pull people apart. Think back to school for a second. Back then, closeness had a structure. You were in the same place all the time. You shared schedules. You ran into each other constantly. You didn't always have to plan connection. A lot of it just happened. Friendship had momentum, but adult life doesn't work like that. Once you're grown, connection stops being built into your life. Now you have to make it happen. You have to text first. You have to make plans. You have to follow through. You have to have the energy for it. And that's the part a lot of people don't talk about. The problem usually isn't that people don't care. It's that by the end of the day, they're already exhausted. That's what makes this so hard. A busy life can hide loneliness for a while. If your schedule is packed, it can almost feel like you're doing fine. But being busy is not the same thing as feeling connected. A full calendar doesn't always mean a full heart. In fact, some people don't even realize how lonely they've been until life finally slows down for a minute. And then it hits all at once. That's one of the most common forms of adult loneliness. You look functional from the outside. You're doing what you're supposed to do. You're keeping up. You're replying. You're showing up. But emotionally, something still feels empty. And then comes the confusing part. A lot of people think, but I do have friends. So why'd I still feel like this? That's a fair question. And the answer is simple, but painful. Because what we need isn't just social contact. We need emotional connection. Quick laughs matter. Casual conversations matter. Work friendships matter. But they don't always feed the deeper part of us. At some point, most people want more than just interaction. They want to feel known. They want a relationship where they don't have to explain everything. Where they can show up tired, messy, unsure, and still feel safe. Where they can reach out without feeling like a burden. Where they can be honest without worrying they'll sound like too much. And adult life makes that kind of closeness harder to build. And harder to maintain. Because that kind of connection takes time. It takes repetition. It takes vulnerability. And honestly, it takes courage. There's also another layer to loneliness that makes it even heavier. Shame. A lot of people don't just feel lonely. They feel embarrassed about being lonely. They think, at my age, shouldn't I have this figured out by now? Everybody else seems to have their people. Why does this feel harder for me? And because of that shame, they get quieter. They want to reach out, but stop themselves. They miss someone, but don't say it. They want to reconnect, but worry they'll seem needy or awkward or out of place. So they say nothing. And over time, loneliness stops feeling like just a passing emotion. It starts shaping how they move through the world. They become more hesitant, more withdrawn, more likely to assume they don't belong. And honestly, that's one of the saddest parts. Because a lot of people treat loneliness like proof that they've failed somehow. Like it means they're not interesting enough. Not lovable enough, not chosen enough. But the truth is, loneliness is not proof that there's something wrong with you. A lot of the time, it's just a signal. A signal that a very human need has gone unmet for too long. That's all. If your body is hungry, you eat. If you're tired, you rest. But when you're lonely, a lot of us don't respond with care. We respond with self-judgment. We act like loneliness is pathetic. Like it's something to hide. Like needing connection is weakness. And that only makes the pain worse. This is also why the usual advice doesn't always work. People say, just get out there. Meet more people. Join a group. Text your friends. And sure, none of that is wrong. But it's not enough. Because loneliness is not just about the number of people in your life. Some people are surrounded by people and still feel deeply alone. What matters more is the quality of connection. The emotional safety. The consistency. The feeling that someone is actually there with you, not just around you. A big social life doesn't automatically fix loneliness. Sometimes people go out more, stay busy, say yes to everything, and still come home feeling even emptier. Because what heals loneliness usually isn't more stimulation. It's more steadiness. Not bigger moments. Smaller ones, repeated. Not 100 casual connections. A few real ones you can actually feel. For example, one person you can see every other week might matter. More than a giant group. Chat you barely feel connected to. A short, regular check-in can matter. More than one intense conversation every few months. You don't always need deep talks right away. Sometimes what your nervous system needs most is something simpler. Something lighter. Something consistent. A text that says, "This made me think of you." A message that says, "Want to grab coffee this week?" Something as simple as, "Hey, just checking in. How've you been?" Those small moments can do more than we think. Because real connection often grows through low-pressure contact. Not grand gestures. Not perfect timing. Just small signs of, "I'm here. I thought of you. You matter to me." And here's another shift that can really help. As adults, we often think we need to find our people. But more often, we have to build our people. That means adult friendship is usually less about instant chemistry, and more about gradual closeness. A few slightly awkward hangouts. A few casual conversations. A few repeated moments where trust starts to grow. And that part is important because a lot of people mistake the early awkwardness of adulthood for failure. They meet someone once or twice. Don't feel instantly close and assume, well, I guess this isn't it. And sometimes that's true, but sometimes closeness just takes longer now. Adult relationships move slower. That's normal. They need more intention, more patience, more repetition. And one more thing, when people feel lonely for a long time, they often start pulling away from the very thing they need most. That's the paradox. The more connection you need, the harder reaching for it can feel. You don't have the energy to reply. Making plans feels like too much. Going out sounds exhausting. You worry you'll be awkward. Or boring. Or like you're forcing it. So you stay in. And the more you stay in, the more disconnected you feel. And the more disconnected you feel, the harder it becomes to reach back out. So if that's been happening to you, please don't rush to label yourself as cold, lazy, or socially broken. A tired heart protects itself by shrinking sometimes. That doesn't mean it's hopeless. It means it's been carrying too much for too long. So what actually helps? Honestly, not something huge. Usually something smaller and more realistic. Instead of trying to meet tons of new people, it may help more to create more repeated connection. Not more people, more rhythm, more consistency. Maybe that's one person you call once a week. Maybe it's someone you take a walk with every other Saturday. Maybe it's a friend you see twice a month, even briefly. The goal isn't to build a perfect social life overnight. The goal is to bring connection back into the rhythm of your actual life. Because people don't just feel less lonely when they have more options. They feel less lonely when they can count on warmth showing up again. And if reconnecting feels hard, start lighter than you think you need to. You don't have to send a deep emotional paragraph. You don't have to explain your whole heart. Sometimes all it takes is something simple. Hey, I saw this and thought of you. You free sometime this week? It's been a minute. How have you been? That kind of low pressure signal can reopen a door, without making either person feel overwhelmed. And maybe most importantly, try not to read loneliness like it's a final verdict on who you are. Try not to turn it into a story that says, I'm just the kind of person who ends up alone. Try not to let one season become your identity. Loneliness has a way of speaking in a very convincing voice. But feelings are not always facts. Feeling disconnected doesn't mean you are unworthy of connection. It may simply mean you've needed something real for longer than you've been able to admit. And the truth is, almost everyone passes through seasons like this. Sometimes more than once. When you move, when a relationship ends, when work takes over, when your friends' lives start moving in different directions, when everybody seems busy building something, and you quietly wonder where exactly you fit. In moments like that, loneliness isn't some dramatic personal flaw. It's often a deeply human response. So if that's where you are right now, I hope you take at least one thing from this. You are not broken. You are not behind. You are not hard to love. You may simply have been trying to survive for too long, without enough real connection, and that matters. So maybe this is the part to remember. Loneliness is not proof that something is wrong with you. It may just be a signal that your heart still wants what every human heart wants. To feel seen, to feel safe, to feel close. And signals aren't something to be ashamed of. They're something to listen to. Sometimes healing starts with one small text. One honest check-in. One low-pressure invitation. One tiny step back toward another human being. So if you've been busy but still lonely, if you've been surrounded but somehow still disconnected, you're not the only one. Not even close. And maybe that's the real question. Not, what's wrong with me? But what kind of connection have I been missing? Because in the end, loneliness is not your identity. It's a message. And maybe it's finally time to answer it.